A very happy Cardinals off day after a not so happy Cardinals road trip. The local 9 went 1-6 on the road, and they lost a lot of late inning ball games, which has capitalized on Wednesday's series finale against the Atlanta Braves. Ryan Fernandez serves up a 3-run homer in the 8th inning to Eli White, who I totally heard of entering the game. I totally knew who that was. And it just keeps snowballing for this bullpen. Welcome back to Cardinal Territory. Katie and Bernie coming at you for a bullpen breakdown episode. Lots to talk about, lots to say. Bernie, we'll start with you. What do you make of the situation here?
Oh my gosh, where to start, right? Where to start
with you?
First of all, we talk about they're 2-11 on the road. There's only been one Cardinals team worse than that after 13 games. And I know you're thinking, well, why are you talking about that? I'm talking about that because you know what the bullpen's road ERA is? 7.27.
That'll do it.
Yeah, needless to say, that's the worst road ERA by a bullpen in the majors. So I'm bringing that up because, I'm not saying that neither one of us are going to say today that, the bullpen is the only problem. Like I was really ticked off watching that game in Atlanta yesterday where the Cardinals had a chance of, get some runs off Bryce Elder, who has not been very good at all. And they had a chance to take advantage of a fatigued Atlanta bullpen, and they didn't. But the game is still there, and it just all blew up again. It's just napalm city all the time. So I don't know how it gets better. That's the thing. I don't know how it gets better because Ryan Fernandez and JoJo Romero have both gone way, way south. And they got to get Fernandez in the minor leagues, try to fix them. Oli Marmol, and I really want to get your take on this. Oli Marmol made it very clear yesterday that don't look for help down below. That's not going to change anything. And I thought that was a loaded comment by him. But no, there's no question about it. The bullpen was the Cardinals' number one strength without a doubt last year, and now it is the number one liability. And it is worse than I even imagined. And I thought the bullpen performance would go down some this year because history tells us you're not going to get two exceptional seasons in a row out of your bullpen because relievers are just all over the place. But I could not have comprehended it would be as bad as it is. It's not only just the performance, but it's like, okay, bad performance. Where are the solutions? The answer is, I don't know, because they don't know. Right?
Correct. So I think I have to say it now. I think I have to admit that I was wrong about the bullpen. I like you. I didn't expect them to be absolutely nails like they were last year. And some regression was going to take place from any player that overperformed last season. I did not think it would regress to this point. JoJo Romero, Ryan Fernandez, two staples in last year's bullpen. And when we get into this, because you brought up the quote that Oli said, and we'll get there. It's important to note that this bullpen was crafted and designed with the belief that Fernandez and Romero would take steps forward, not backwards, and certainly not fallen to this extent that they have. I mean, Fernandez has an ERA over 11, JoJo an ERA over 7, is just getting killed by righties, as you pointed out on last week's show. And all they did was put this under their runway platform, right? It's all about opportunity. Let's give these guys opportunities. Well, relief pitching is so volatile, not even from season to season, not even from month to month, but from week to week. And this quote from Oli Marmol, I'll read it because I, like you, Bernie, when he said it on camera, I was like, oh, that is saying the quiet part out loud. Yeah. Here's what he said after JoJo and Ryan Fernandez combined for that 8th inning. This is who we got, and we got to get them back on track. There's nothing coming from down below where it's going to change. We have to get these guys better, and the only way is for them to pitch. It's absolutely frustrating, but we're going to keep going with them. We have to continue to encourage them and continue to get on the other side of this. I took this the exact same way you did. That was what else do you want me to do? We don't have anyone in the minors that's going to come up and fix this problem. Now, it's not to say they don't have guys. You can recall Chris Roycroft. You can see what Riley O'Brien looks like. At this point, I get over the first 2 weeks of the season, letting Fernandez go out there and trying to figure it out. I get that. However, it's been a month and that slider hasn't looked any better. And the more he goes out there, and the more demoralizing it gets. So can you make the change to send Fernandez down and get him right in the minors and bring up one of those other guys? Yes, sure. But are you really changing anything, Bernie? Because all you're changing is the name on the jersey. Are you changing the problem? No, you still don't have an arm that you feel comfortable under Phil Maton. And that's, I think, what Ollie Marmol is saying.
And he's exactly what he was saying. And that message was directly, well, not directly, because it's not like Mo was standing in the room, but that message was sent to John Mozeliak. And I have no doubt about that whatsoever. I know how these things work. I also know that Ollie is very frustrated, as he said, by the situation. And, he's kind of been left to try to figure this out on his own, except they don't have enough depth. They don't have enough talent. And I don't like to turn these Cardinal Territories with you because it's a privilege to do them with you. So I don't want to turn it into me doing the stat boy thing, but
do it.
I put this on X today. Okay, if we take Steven Matz's innings in the bullpen, not the start, but in the bullpen. So Leahy, Maton, Helsley, and Matz, 49 and 2/3 innings. They have a 1.99 ERA, right? Everyone else in that bullpen has got a 9.33 ERA combined. Is that unbelievable? Seriously,
that is crazy.
Is that nuts? Yeah. So, and that includes Matz in the bullpen, and he's really not a full-time bullpen, guy. I mean, Leahy's been phenomenal. Maton's been really, really good. You mentioned the other day, and I agree with you. I do worry, though, that they're going to run him into the ground. Ryan Helsley is an interesting case to me because, the last 16 games, he's only had 3 save opportunities. Like, he doesn't pitch anymore.
No, I mentioned that to him in Atlanta. I said, "Hey, have you pitched yet?" And he was like, "Nope." And I was like, "Okay, maybe today you will."
And it's interesting because he's had some by a closer standards, he's had some extended absences from pitching. And if you notice, when he does pitch after these absences, he does not have his vintage strikeout stuff. So it actually works against him. And so I don't want to jump ahead. See, I'm already all over the place because there's just so much there. But
it's okay. So are the Cardinals.
No, Ollie's very, very frustrated. I think Ollie, frankly, I think Ollie had to pester Mo over and over and over and over again to get Phil Maton, and Mo just kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. I guess till the he got the rock bottom price on him, which it seems. But where do you go from here? And I will say this about Ollie, okay? Take Matt Swanson. I'm not saying this guy's like the next Jason Isringhausen, but listen, you don't have depth. You're leaning on guys like Fernandez and Romero who are just getting blown up every time, just about. And if you're going to bring up someone, and it's someone who did lead AA league in saves last year, and he's been okay at Memphis, he's got to pitch. You can't just let him sit around. He's got to pitch. And I could use the old saying. It's like, well, he can't be any worse than a couple of these guys down there, So, but I worry that they're going to. I worry they're going to overpitch Leahy. I worry they're going to overpitch Maton. And then when they do that, then you think it's bad now. But I do think Ollie and Dusty Blake are conscientious about that. I think they want to protect those guys.
They do.
Yeah. And you're right there, and you're always talking to them about that. Anyway, that's sort of my opening thoughts on this with a good stat thrown in. So you take it from there.
That was a great stat. Let's talk a little bit about Maton, because we collectively, Cardinal Territory family and Cardinals fans in general, tend to really overanalyze the bullpen in general. And it makes sense because when the bullpen collapses, usually the game result comes with it. So I thought Ollie made great points yesterday about the runway that the organization extends to position players. You go out there and you run Jordan Walker out there every day. And if he goes 0 for 4, he's in the lineup the next day. Same with Nolan Gorman, take your pick. But if you are extending opportunities to these players in the bullpen, well, Ryan Fernandez goes out there and blows a lead and the Cardinals lose, you're fixating on that because it had a direct impact on the result of the game. So the opportunity and the runway for the bullpen is so much more complex than the opportunity and the run for position players. Also, the way that we analyze bullpen usage, I'm not here, and I'm not going to say Ollie Marmol and Dusty Blake have been perfect, but there are so many other factors in which reliever comes in when, other than right-handed or left-handed handedness, splits, and the 3 batter minimum. So yesterday, Miles Michaelis, great job. 6 scoreless innings. You would have wished the offense could get to Bryce Elder. They couldn't. Kyle Leahy comes in, does a great job, and you're feeling pretty good about where you are coming into the 8th. And then I'm looking in the press box and I take out my little binoculars and I'm seeing JoJo and Fernandez warming at the same time.
Ooh.
And I think, okay, Phil Maton has to be down today.
Yeah.
And we were looking back and he didn't pitch on Tuesday, but he did pitch on Monday. So we were a little confused on why he was down. JoJo comes in, you know how that goes. Fernandez, same thing. Well, Phil Maton, and this is partly on the front office. Because they signed him so late in the spring, he's only got a 3-week ramp-up period. And if you're looking at this from a calendar perspective, he's in week 6 of his throwing program. In week 6 of spring training, you are throwing 2, maybe 3 times a week. If Phil Maton would have come in the game on Wednesday, that would have been 5 times in a week. And he is as pro as it can be. No, he blew a game on Monday and he was waiting for us at his locker like, yep, come on, let's do it. And he's going to take the ball every time he wants to. He's durable for a reason. But if you overuse him in April and then you don't have him in June, not only are you screwing your team, you're costing that player's career and playing time. Phil Maton's a 10-year veteran in this game. If he goes out, he barely got a job in the first place, which is crazy because he's been great. If he goes out and he's injured and he hurts himself, you're impacting his career as well. So we have to think about those things, which makes explaining bullpen usage really frustrating for me personally. And again, I'm not saying that, every single decision has been the right one, but the constant clamoring over why wasn't this reliever used or why was this guy on the bench? I think, we need to process this not just from the result of the game, because there are plenty of times where the wrong reliever comes in and does great and we don't talk about it. Now, the separate conversation that we need to have is that there just aren't many good relievers that can pitch for the Cardinals right now. And it's not like you can keep running out at this point, Fernandez and Romero. They're not right, and they need to get to be right. They're going to be pivotal for this team down the stretch. It's April 24th, but we're almost right on time for our regularly scheduled April collapse. You need to avoid that, and so by doing that, you have to get those 2 right. The problem is, Bernie, like we talked about, who is going to come up and help you? You have one of your best relievers in the rotation in Matthew Liberatore, which is where he needs to be. Steven Matz, you can't have him in that 1-inning role or so because he needs length to come in and spot start in the rotation. This is all a microcosm of saying what we have known for years. The Cardinals' problems are not just major league level. They have infiltrated through the entire organization. They have virtually zero depth, and they presented a major league roster with a razor-thin margin for error, and that is why they are 10-16.
I totally agree with that. And, I want to go back to something. You're right. There's a deep fundamental flaw with where it's all just kind of hit home really, really hard because it's been going this way. In fact, what they did last year with that bullpen was amazing, but it was also unrealistic to expect it to be even close to that. But I want to go back to something you said, because you're so right about, and I look at it this way: a manager is going to catch hell one way or the other. Like, take Phil Maton, take your example. It was really, really pushing it way too far to ask that guy to pitch again yesterday, because you want him for 162 games. But the way it works, and this is true, I'm not ripping Cardinals fans. It's true of any fan base. And it's true of some media for that matter. So you have Phil Maton, who clearly needed a day. He would have pitched, but that's not the point. He clearly needed a day, right? So if Ali brings him in and he's tired, he doesn't have his sharp stuff or whatever, and he gets blasted, it's like, well, he's been pitching a lot. Why did he bring him in? And if he doesn't pitch, it's like, well, why isn't he using Phil Maton? Well, he's got Maton down there. What is he doing? So Ali, actually, any manager could lose in 2 different ways in this whole debate where fans are demanding a certain reliever come in. Either Maton, because he's pitched so much and he needs a day, is going to get ripped up in his appearance, and it happens a lot to relievers, even he's durable, or he's going to get hurt. So they're screaming for him to come into the game, but if he comes into the game and he's bad because he's tired, or he comes into the game, gosh forbid, and he gets hurt, what are they going to be screaming about?
Why was screaming the game?
Yeah. Why is Ali running this guy into the ground? See, I had a thing, if you don't mind this real quick, because it's all related. I gave Mike Matheny a very unfriendly nickname in terms of his bullpen handling, right? I nicknamed him, I'm sorry, I'm a bad person. I'm a bad person. I nicknamed him the wood chipper.
Okay.
And because it's like relievers would be out there all the time, and then like one by one, they would just be physically destroyed. Our mutual good friend, Trevor Rosenthal, was one of those guys. Seth Maness was one of those guys. Kevin Segras was one of those guys. Matt Bowman was one of those guys. I mean, on and on and on and on. So many of those relievers were just broken, primarily, I think, through overusage, right? Where you just pushed it too far. Even Mike Schultz, and I think we both admire his skills as a manager. In the first half of the season, I forget these years now, but they had 3 excellent relievers. It's 2021, I believe. They had 3. They had 3 excellent relievers in Alex Reyes, Giovanni Gallegos, and Genesis Cabrera.
Yes, they're 7, 8, 9 guys.
And Schultz just ran them out there over and over and over and over again. And I wasn't second guessing it, because when I was writing stuff about it, I was saying, well, you might want to lighten this up a little bit. I mean, this is really pushing Alex Reyes, and Gallegos at some point is just to lose his steam, and Cabrera looks tired. Those guys, all of them, were just totally different in a bad way in the second half. I mean, Schultz burned his bullpen out. Listen, I empathize with managers. It's got to be tempting to go with your best guys, maybe more than you should, but you do it anyway. But it's just bad policy, and it just, eventually they're going to crack. Eventually they're going to break. And if you're thinking about 162 games, you've got to have at least some moderation in there. It can't be so intense and extreme. So I've seen manager after manager after manager do this. So I'm particularly sensitive to this type of situation because I'm very familiar with the history of what happens is if you push individual relievers too hard.
And to your point, Bernie, those 3 players, that was my first year.
Yeah.
Any of those 3 relievers the same after the 2021 season?
No,
they were not. Alex Reyes didn't pitch again. Genesis Cabrera is in the minors. Giovanni Gallegos, same thing on the 60-day IL in Oklahoma City. So you have to respect the career and take that into consideration as well. So that is just a disclaimer of how bullpen usage works. And to this day, this is my 5th year covering this team. I will walk into Ollie Marmol's office, or I'll see if Dusty Blake can come outside, and I'll be like, what is going on with this situation, and why wasn't this used? And they'll tell me something I wasn't even thinking about. And it's my job to think about this thing.
Right.
So of course I don't expect fans to understand or rationalize or get it, but I promise you, it's such a complex decision, and we overanalyze it so much because it impacts the game. Really, I get it. Being a reliever is the hardest thing in baseball, because if you have a good day, your team wins. If you don't, they lose.
It's and the thing of it is, protecting them from injury is a big part of it. But the other thing, as we both saw in 2021, it isn't just this eventually caused them to break down. That's true. But they also lost their effectiveness in the second half of the season. And the Cardinals, in some ways, I'm still surprised they were able to get into the wild card game. And then, that was a disaster because, Reyes, poor guy, So, it's got to be tough for these managers to be really, really disciplined about this. I think Marmol, for the most part, has been. But where does it get him? It gets him a lot of grief, right?
He's done a nice job of deep breathing before the cameras turn on. I will say that.
I can only imagine. Yeah, you need to. We need to have a hidden cam in there. No,
no, you don't.
Listen. The way it is in with the Cardinals right now, when a Katie Woo or a Bernie Miklasz or a Derek Gould or a John Denton or a columnist, Marmol's in a tough spot. They don't have enough there for him. Marmol, the organization's failed. They haven't given him a good bullpen. It's very thin. You had guys that are just like going south. What's a manager going to do? And anytime I say this on a video or write it, I catch hell. It's just because everybody wants to blame the manager. I get it. That is the natural instinct.
That's the game. That's
and I've done that in the past too. You always look at the manager and you think, what did he do that for? And then you start, as time goes on, you start to maybe develop more depth in your thinking on these things. So that's a tough job, man. Really tough job.
All right, Bernie, we'll get into some solutions here. First, though,
what solutions?
Well, that's the thing. I need to do this live read so I can think if there are any, because right now, off the top of my head, I don't have any. Let's hear from Hungry Root. We'll get right back to it.
Kratz, do you like spending an hour on grocery shopping?
Nope. Speed up the process, please.
Introducing Hungry Root to the FT fam.
Now we can all be bougie with our own personal shopper to handle the food shopping, including recs based on what you're looking to put in your body.
I stack my Hungry Root box with items like gluten-free, dairy-free blueberry waffles for breakfast, shrimp veggie bowls for lunch, and a little filet mignon with potatoes and broccolini for dinner.
You can also say just, hey, Hungry Root, I eat paleo, or I'm vegetarian, and they load up your cart with personalized recommendations.
And those recs keep evolving as they learn about what you're into. Also, no BS, as in no artificial sweeteners or preservatives in any of Hungry Root's food. You're going to love Hungry Root as much as FT does. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/FT and use code FT. That's hungryroot.com/FT, code FT to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life.
All right, so heading into the weekend, a quick 3-game homestand against the Brewers, just the second division matchup for the Cardinals and the Brewers. And we'll have a preview of that episode out tomorrow with Brewers pre- and post-game radio host Dom Contriano. So that will be exciting. And then a quick roadie, 4 games in Cincy. That might take us to the end of April. Time flies when you're having fun. I'm not sure what we need to see from the Cardinals, given what they have, to get this back on track, because who would have thought that the best asset of this team so far would be that starting rotation? The offense has really struggled, honestly, since Herrera went down. They've had good days, but they still haven't fully clicked all the way since that injury. Right. But this bullpen, something has to be addressed. And I'm not sure what the Cardinals can do here, except for, like we talked about, you can bring someone up from the Memphis Express. But again, does that really, all it does is change the name that we put on the scorecard? Does that really change the problem? The problem is outside of your big 3 in Helsley, who never pitches because they're never in a safe situation, Phil Maton, and Kyle Leahy, you don't really have any weapons. You don't really have a lefty. John King has been okay, but you can't go through a bullpen with only 3 out of your 8 spots confident in. Bernie, what do you think the Cardinals should do here?
Well, the first thing is, it's easy for me to say, but Ryan Fernandez, and I overlooked this, he actually started to struggle after the All-Star break last year. So if you go all the way back to the All-Star break through this part of the season, he's got an ERA of about 7.60. And Romero, over his last 50 games going back to last year, he's got an ERA of 5.63, and he's got a 17% strikeout rate. It's like, oh my goodness. So the reason I'm sort of beating that to death is just to point out, you can't keep going to them over and over and over and over again. Fernandez needs to be fixed. The minor league, he has to be in Memphis to start to fix this. You don't let him continue to just take beatings up here. It doesn't help the team. It doesn't help him. And Romero, I don't know what to say about him. In the old days, you could protect him because you could make him a true loogie, left-handed specialist. Never had to worry about a right-handed hitter, but he can't do that anymore with get to face 3 batters. And so they feast on him when they have the righties ready to go. So I don't know what to do there. The one thought I had, and again, it's not an original thought. One thought I had before we talk about Memphis options is, why can't you just make McGreevy the designated 6th starter, and you put Matz in the bullpen, and McGreevy can come up to make those, what turns out to be, they're kind of like spot starts.
Exactly.
And I know it's kind of tough to coordinate all the schedules, but it can be done. But who down in Memphis? First of all, if you called up Matt Swanson, who's here, why don't you let him pitch and see what he does, right? Riley O'Brien's got, the last time I checked, 14 strikeouts in 7 innings. He's got electric stuff, but he's always hurt. Even when he's not technically injured, there's always something going on with him where he doesn't feel right. And apparently he's the type of pitcher that'll tell the manager and the coach, I don't feel something's not right, So I don't know if you can rely on him. That part of his profile is kind of shaky. The durability. Do you give Roderick Munoz an extended run at this? He seems very hittable, but maybe he would thrive in a relief role if you give him a chance to, and you give him some ways to sort of get people off that fastball or whatever. And do you recycle Chris Roycroft? I think you probably do. And who am I leaving out here? What about this Andre Granillo? He's not on the 40 man, but apparently he's pitching pretty well there. I mean, I'm like everybody else. I'm just throwing names out there. If they're not going to get help from the outside, whatever's out there, it's going to have to come from Memphis. What do you think?
So the problem with those lists of names that you just ran off is that not one single name jumped out to me or excited to me.
Right.
And said, yeah, that's the fix, except for your idea of using Michael McGreevy as a spot starter. It's complex. And we've talked about if Steven Matz, we've talked about this with Ollie over the week in Atlanta. If Steven Matz can be who Matthew Liberatore was for you last year, and then you can use Michael McGreevy as a spot starter, because really the 6-man rotation, they're going to use it twice before they have, I'm looking at my schedule, 4 consecutive Thursdays off after the Cincinnati final game of that series. So you don't need that. You don't need to save Matz for length. The problem is Steven Matz has actually thrown the ball really well, and he can make an argument for being a starter in that rotation, but you sure as hell aren't taking Libby out. You're not taking Palante out. You're not, and you can't take any of those 3 veterans out. So, oh my gosh, oh no, the Cardinals have a roster construction problem. We've never said that before. Here we are again. They have so many pieces that in flashes will work and no way to put them all together. So the worst thing that they can do from a fan base perspective is keep running out the same guys every single day. If Ryan Fernandez blows one more game, I think Cardinals Twitter might explode, and it's going to take me down with it. I don't want to go down like that. Now, I'm not sure what else they can do rather than, okay, can Steven Matz be your lefty guy and you just hope that someone else doesn't get hurt? And you hope that your starters can stay healthy? Hope is not a viable strategy, as I once heard in the manager's office. The problem here is that there isn't a viable solution, and there has not been one. And the organization, the front office, just let it happen as part of their transition season. I'm all on board with what they're doing here. You need to know what you have in guys so you know whether they're going to build or not. Are these people that you can build around, these players that can be part of your future? Relievers don't necessarily fall under that bucket for me because, like we talked about, they're so finicky. They are so volatile. They fluctuate all the time. That's the nature of their position. This makes sense to do with the rotation. It makes sense to do with the position players. By leaving virtually no options in your bullpen other than the reliever that you signed halfway through spring, this is what you're going to get. You're dangerously close to panic level in April again for the 3rd straight year. And at this time, 3rd time's a charm. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get out of it. They certainly didn't in 23. They barely did in 24. They're playing with fire rapidly. Bernie, as you know, there is no more demoralizing of a feeling as a baseball player to hold the lead for 7.5 innings, play a good game, and lose it like that. That happened to them 4 times in the last 7 games, and it takes a toll on everybody.
I didn't realize that until you just said it. That's pretty drastic stuff. You know, that was Tony La Russa's thing, because we would talk a lot of philosophy, we talk a lot of perspective things, and he said that is the worst thing that can happen to your team. He said, other than injury. He said, injury is a separate thing. He said there is nothing worse when you have a game basically won and it gets away. He said all the years I managed, that's the only thing that's ever really, you can see that it demoralizes your team. Some of them really fester for a couple days. And so that's absolutely right. When you get your heart broken all those times, when you've played some good games, and let's give them credit too. They play exceptional defense and their starting pitching has been good. That's what's sad about this, because they have some things working well for them, right? But when the offense sort of just kind of goes haywire, not in a good way. I mean, you realize they hit more home runs in the first 7 games than they have in the last 18.
They've not been slow.
the power drain is really hurting the offense. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is just to make the point. Again, there's a lot going on there, and some of the things are really, really good. But these games are so intricate because just like Miles Michaelis, he pitches great yesterday, right? It's a gift. He gives you 6 scoreless innings. And then your offense shuts down, and then you have another blow up. And you put it in a situation where the margin for error or the margin for any kind of failure by an individual reliever, because your offense is not scoring, your starting pitchers are not getting run support from the standpoint where, you can have a laugher here and there where you're up 6-1 or whatever. It's like everything is tense. Everything is high intensity. Everything's high leverage. Everything's pressure. And it takes like one mistake and the whole thing falls apart. I mean, because they're taking so many games late in part because the offense isn't getting enough done early. So they drag all these games into the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. And last year they had the bullpen to win those games or protect those leads or to win tie games because they'd win the battle of the bullpen. This year, when you carry those tight games into the late innings on a night or day when the offense is not clicking, it takes like one pitch and it all goes smithereens, they are navigating such a treacherous path because of all those factors I mentioned. And there's going to be a lot of bruising and a lot of demoralized players after a lot of these games. And I wish the offense could just start to unload again because it would take the pressure off the bullpen. Yesterday's game was so classic. I'm sorry, Katie, go ahead.
No, I completely agree. The problem is the more that you have games like Mondays, Wednesdays, any of the New York series, the more it becomes a thing. The more it becomes something that's nagging in the back of your mind, whether you're the reliever, whether you're the catcher, whether you're the manager, whether you're the outfielder, and the second a reliever comes in a late inning, 1-run tie ball game and walks a batter, you get this sense like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
And that happened to us upstairs. We saw JoJo put 2 on. I mean, that hard hit single, the first one, I can't remember who it was. Immediately we were like, here it is. And then puts another one on. A gift of a put out from Sean Murphy, a nice play by Joel Pozo. And in comes Fernandez. And we all knew, all of us were like, this game is ending right now. And it's no knock on Fernandez. It's just how many times have we seen this before? And that becomes in the back of your mind and it impacts your performance, whether you're aware of it or not. So I don't know what the solution is for these Cardinals. I would hope that they could swing it a little bit more. I thought Mason Wynn coming back would help. I understand the frustration that the coaching staff is in. They didn't inherit these players. This is not they don't make the roster. And I'm not quite sure how they can use the 8 that they have right now any better than they are. And that to me is the problem. But the good news, everyone, is if you want to watch the Cardinals blow another lead in the 8th, you can. You can watch them on FanDuel Sports Network. You can stream. Let's hear it from All right, our final segment of the day. We got to do our FanDuel Sports Network player to watch ahead of this 3-game set against the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to stick to our bullpen theme. I'm going Kyle Leahy. Let's do a quick run through his stats. He's appeared in 13 games, 15 2/3 innings, 16 strikeouts, a 1.72 ERA, fills up the zone, nasty arsenal. It was funny, Dusty Ollie was telling us when Kyle Leahy first made his way into the organization, Dusty Blake said, there's a chance this guy could be our best pitcher in the next 2 years. And I wouldn't put him right there yet. Sonny Gray is still on the team. I think he does have some of the highest potential. He's going to see a lot more high leverage opportunities because there's no way in heck that they can keep running out Fernandez from the right side, given where he's at right now. And we've seen that already. We saw Leahy come in the 7th after Michaelis to be kind of the stopgap guy. I think he's really fascinating to watch as a reliever this year, and I would not be surprised at some point if they take him and turn him into what they're doing with Liberatore, because his stuff is just that good. So if you're looking for silver linings, guys, Kyle Leahy, good reliever.
Yeah, you know, and the thing about him is the dude has this season, the dude has a higher strikeout rate than Ryan Helsley. He's also got a hell of a ground ball rate. And what makes him really special, and it's exciting, he's a right-handed pitcher, but he is actually tougher on left-handed hitters than right-handed hitters. Like, in other words, neither group do much against him. I mean, the batting average against him before yesterday was like 069 or something. I mean, it's just ridiculous how great he is. And a guy, they've hit his four-seam fastball a little bit, okay? But the other four pitches he throws, like the batting average on all those pitches combined, it's actually something that truly would make you laugh out loud. It's ridiculous. They can't do anything with these pitches. They have no idea what's coming because he commands 5 different pitches. And hitters are saying, well, this is when he'll throw the changeup. Well, I'm going to look changeup. And then he just messes them up all the time. They're guessing wrong all the time. That sounds like a starting pitcher in the making to me, right?
I totally agree. I mean, he's an uncomfy at bat through and through from both sides of the ball, as you mentioned. And there was some talk about it in spring on what he could look like if the Cardinals get to a point this season where they continue their 10-16 record and it spirals even more. I could see them maybe starting that experiment early, but right now I really like what Leahy's doing. I think this is a great showing for him as a reliever. I think his ceiling as a starter, 6-pitch arsenal, has nasty stuff, and just try to read the swings of opposing players. You're spot on. They have no idea what's coming. They're guessing, and he knows it. So if the Cardinals can get, in a perfect world, the St. Louis Cardinals get 6 innings, they get quality starts from their rotation, which actually has happened pretty often. And you get Leahy for the 7th against, it doesn't really matter. He can take the lefty lane or the righty lane, get you to Maton, get you to Helsley, high five, handshakes, high fives, game over. The problem is they have not been able to do that. And having a blueprint where your most perfect brand of baseball is the only brand of baseball that gets you a win. That's how you get 10 wins by April 24th.
Well said. Nothing to add except can I do one real quick thing, maybe player to watch, and if I could get off the bullpen, I'll be quick about it because I have a stat that I love.
Yes,
it's also unbelievable, and I had to like quadruple check it just to make sure. So you told us not only on Cardinal Territory, but you told us in the Athletic, they really want to give Nolan Gorman a lot of run at DH. Okay. Yes, please. Yes. Just make him the DH and let him go. Katie, this is unbelievable. And again, I want to tell everyone, I quadruple checked this. I checked at Baseball Reference, FanGraphs, everywhere. The Cardinals designated hitters as a group. They've had 102 plate appearances, 102 plate appearances this year. 1 RBI. 1 RBI. Trust me, again.
Homers?
No home runs. Specifically the DH position. No home runs, 1 RBI, one. And as an added bonus, the boy said, being sarcastic, they've hit in 5 double plays. I mean,
wow.
The Cardinals, there's everything, just about everything is just so crazy.
Not crazy good. Crazy.
In what universe does the team have 102 plate appearances from their DHs? And the primary guys have been, in terms of at bats, have been, Burleson and Contreras and Baker, and Gorman and Donovan just like maybe 1 turn each. But what kind of crazy team? You get 25 games into the season and your DHs have driven in 1 run. It was an RBI by Burleson. I don't even remember when it was. But go ahead and check for yourself, because I know it's one of those things you hear, you say, oh, there's no way that can be true. Check.
Okay. A rule of thumb. If you're talking about the St. Louis Cardinals and you think, no way can that be true.
That's right.
It can be true, as you and I know.
Right.
That is an insane stat. Really just kind of wraps up this whole...
It's just nuts.
Whatever the heck this last week was. Listeners, Cardinal Territory fans, hopefully you were able to commiserate and vent with us a little bit. Maybe this could be a nice little therapy session for you. It really was another grueling road trip I don't know why each road trip has felt like 84 years. But this last one, I think just across the board, 1-6, not good. Hopefully they can get right against the Brewers, but that's a Brewers team that's heating up. They look good too. I don't know, Bernie. I don't know.
You know, they're so bad on the road. They got 3 with the Brewers, and then I think it's 13 out of the next 19 after that'll be on the road.
I don't want to do that.
For
me personally, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I forget what cities. I know DC is one of them, which is I like.
No,
DC.
we have Cincinnati. Then we have a week at home, Mets, Pirates, and then a 10-day road trip, DC, Philly, Kansas City. So let's see where the team is by then. Hopefully they're in a better spot than where they are right now. The bar is low. Cardinal Territory back at you Friday, April 25th for that Cardinals Brewers series preview. Before we go, though, I need to remind you about something that I almost forgot to do myself. You can watch St. Louis Cardinals games now at FanDuel Sports Network. You can stream them, and if you use the promo code baseball30, you can start it off with a 30-day extended free trial at FanDuelSportsNetwork.com/packages. This deal expires May 2nd, 2025, $19.99 a month after your free trial. Cancel during your free trial to avoid charges. Eligibility restrictions apply. Visit FanDuelSportsNetwork.com for details. You will see Matthew Liberatore, Sonny Gray, and Eric Fetty this weekend. Steven Matz will make another start at some point during the next 4-game series at Cincinnati. And you might, I don't know this. If I did, I would tell you, you might see some bullpen shakeup, but I would not be surprised if you don't. We'll see. We're going to ride this together, Cardinals fans. It's a long season, and it certainly feels like it right now. That's all I got, Bernie.
Always a pleasure to talk baseball with you. Always.
I agree. We'll be back at it next week. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.